had an anti-African, anti-Black immigration policy. The immigration policy has never been colorblind in America. It isn't colorblind today. It's not colorblind today. It is a very color conscious policy that they have. And that policy has always taken into account the individuals who want to come here. If you saw my documentary film 7 a.m., we talked about that then, that under Woodrow Wilson, you know, the reason why you had somebody like Marcus Garvey was because under President Woodrow Wilson made it very clear that no, America is not a place for Black immigrants. We got a closed door policy where Black immigrants are concerned. We're not interested in that at all. Not at all. So you've had to have various programs, various laws, court rulings. You've had to have that happen in order to make a lane for all these Black immigrants. But when you hear them, if they tell the tale, they were just invited to come over because they're just so great and wonderful and groovy. And that's the thing that really makes a lot of Black folk in America say, okay, wait a minute. This isn't just, this isn't just incidental. This is fictional. This is fictional. So I'm asking a basic question here. How do Black immigrants help Black Americans? And back to the part where I was saying before about a difference in agendas. What is the Black immigrant agenda? We ask a whole lot, we ask about what America's agenda is. What is Black America's agenda? For the Black immigrants that come to America, exactly what is their agenda for coming here? What is the reason for coming here? Why? What is the agenda that they have in mind when they come here? What is the agenda that they execute once they get here? Do they have the same one as the rest of us, or do they have something different? And if so, what is that difference and why? Why do they have a different agenda from the rest of us? Because when I take a look around, I ask a fundamental question. In a world that is controlled and dominated by white supremacy, other than Black people in America and to a slightly lesser extent, Black people in the UK, I don't see any other group of Black people in the world who is making it their modus operandi that defines their identity as fighting white supremacy. You don't see that as part of their normal code of conduct, their normal daily routine. That's not something that comes up on a regular basis, that they define themselves juxtapositioned in opposition to white supremacy. They start talking about themselves as a geographic region. They start talking about themselves as an ethnic distinction, but they don't talk about themselves as being Black juxtaposed against a system of white supremacy. They don't talk about a Black identity. Because when we talk about a Black identity, we talk about the greatness of that. We talk about the, perseverance of that. We talk about all the accomplishments that came from that, building, the greatest nation on earth and our ingenuity and our sweat equity and our labor and our vision that did that. When you talk about American quote unquote culture, you're talking about Black people. You are talking about the descendants of slaves. You're talking about Aboriginal people. You're talking about foundational Black Americans. You're talking about us when you talk about American culture, because there was no culture in America before us. There was no American music before us. Everything that they had was something that they brought over from Europe. There was no original American creation. We were the only ones who did that, and we didn't just do it once. Pretty much every American musical art form that you can imagine. Today, the dress of Americans is directly from us. The speech of America is directly from us. America's chief export is its culture, is its practices, its way of doing things. We're the only original thing that has come out of this place. Everything else is just a reiteration of where they came from before. We're the only unique thing that came from it. When you talk about ragtime, the precursor, jazz, blues, rock and roll, rap, country, yeah, you didn't think about it in that regard, now did you? The blues, we are the ones responsible for that. When you talk about American comedy today, yeah, I mean, we're going well beyond just music if you thought I was going to stop there. We talk about American comedy. That's us. We are the ones who gave the vision. We gave the lens to it, the execution of it. American, what you call American comedy, that is us. That is Black people being able to define the absurdity of the society and being able to illustrate it in a humorous way. That is us. Down the line, that is us. When you talk about dress norms, when you talk about quote unquote the American spirit, you talk about overcoming adversity. Please tell me the adversity the white people had to overcome. I'll wait. Show me where they've had to hand it down from generation to generation that they were overcoming something. You see, you can't hand down generation after generation of overcoming if you have already overcome it. When you took a look at places like Tiananmen Square, they were holding up pictures of Dr. King. That tells you what the culture was. That tells you what the culture was. When you go around the world, when they talk about revolutionaries, they start with ours here in America. They start here in this place. Even with some of the bad things, by the way, even some of the bad things are a direct result and a direct consequence of us here. The United States of America had to create such a brutal, oppressive system of white supremacy, and Nazi Germany patterned what they did after the United States. They weren't even really sure how to get it going originally, but they patterned what they did there after the United States. You can Google that one for yourself, by the way. How the Nazis took a look at American apartheid, American segregation, and said, oh, you know what? If we tweak that a little bit, yeah, we can make some real things jump off. We tweak that a little bit. And sure enough, they did. And the rest is history. Now, you'll notice something different here. The conversation I'm having with you tonight about all these things on all these levels, and then bringing that back to we as Black people, and I'm saying the word Black, to we as Black people, is that the immigrant agenda? Is this the conversation that occurs in Trinidad and Tobago and Dominican Republic and Haiti and Jamaica? Is this the conversation that occurs there? Not the conversation that occurs after they get here. Is this the conversation that occurs over there? Is this the conversation that occurs around their dinner table? Is this the conversation that occurs on their block? Is this the conversation that occurs on a normal basis where they come from? Is this the kind of thing that you hear on a regular basis? Because you can hear this on a regular basis at 125th Street in Harlem. You can hear this on a regular basis there. Do you hear this on a regular basis in those places? If you want to talk about Ghana or Nigeria, do you hear Blackness juxtapositioned against a system of white supremacy as the daily course of conversation there? Or is it only confined here? Because if it's only confined here, then what you are saying is that racism, white supremacy is an American problem and that it doesn't exist anywhere else. When you have immigrants who do not speak about these things on a regular basis, what they're saying is that, oh, there is no white supremacy outside of America. And even in America, it's just because, you know, you Black folk there are just not doing something correct or doing something right or whatever the case might be. That's what you're saying. If you don't see anything happening there, that's what you're saying. I had people who were calling me up and they were telling me that the issue was that Black people in America don't understand. There's one guy was talking about, there's no buffer class. What is a buffer class? There were other folks talking about we were cannibalizing immigrants, which I don't really know what that meant. Not really sure how we were cannibalizing or whatever. There was another individual, he tried the master's degree thing, which always is outrageously humorous, to be totally honest, because he was breaking his arm, patting himself in the back, talking about he makes six figures. Well, the problem is if you live in New York City, six figures is working class there. So that's not really something to really